Hi, welcome to the next edition of From People Problems to Productivity. I'm Kirsten Ross Vogel, and thanks for hopping in. If you do see this live, please just throw a comment in there and say hello. Also, add some questions. So, today I am talking about correction conversations. So, a lot of my clients struggle with this. So, I'm going to just share, kind of help give you the motivation to push through the discomfort, just in case you're one of those that kind of avoids them. And if you haven't met me, I'm Kirsten Ross Vogel, founder of Focus Forward Coaching and also the Impact Academy, which you can find at myimpactacademy.com/join. I help leaders build high performing teams. I focus on communication strategies, leadership, selection strategies, all proven actionable strategies that I share. So, work with small to medium size and family businesses. So, thanks for hopping in. Again, say hi if you're catching this and throw your name in the comments as well, because sometimes, depending on where you're watching this, it doesn't show me who you are. So let me talk about some of the common excuses. I mean, we all know our lizard brain, amygdala, whether you call it by its scientific, like real name or that lizard name. Uh, how that works is the goal of that part of our brain is to keep us safe, keep us alive. But it doesn't say danger, danger. It gives us reasons that are actually excuses. Hey, Marat, thanks for hopping in and saying hi. Good to have you. So these excuses feel real. And so I want to share, and they can stop us in our tracks, stop us from doing something that is not dangerous, will not kill us, won't even injure us, really. But whenever we're moving into something uncomfortable, we can, that brain pops in, or if it's just something new, it can even be positive, but our lizard brain, kind of the goal of that is to keep us focused and doing what we already know. And so these are some of the excuses that I hear from leaders often who are avoiding correction conversations. They'll say, what if they get angry? I mean, they might, but that's what I call a stay stuck strategy. And that gives us information that they're not hearing us and they actually want to do things their way versus your way. So you have some information right there and information to use to what are the next steps you want to take with this employee. So have the conversation. They have personal issues in one of my books, From People Problems to Productivity. I actually have a book, From People Problems to Productivity, The Health Professional's Guide to Leading Well. I have a whole chapter on the Life is Hard sympathy card employee. And sometimes we have people who are making decisions in their life that are constantly impacting and causing them to have personal challenges. And if we accommodate all that, this isn't about turning off your heart. We want to help people, but if we fully accommodate the results of all of those choices that they're making, um, there's kind of no reason to set the bar higher personally. And so sometimes we need to still set clear expectations. And we can do that with love, with empathy, but ultimately, if you're running a business, if you're a leader, even if it's a nonprofit, if you're accommodating all of the choices that employees are making that are creating kind of personal challenges one after another, that's a big weight. It's easy to, Marat is saying it's easy to make excuses to avoid uncomfortable conversations. Yes, it is. And you're like, oh, phew, I like the little icon that she's using there, the little sweat running down. Like, phew, I came up with a reason that is valid. I am going to skip this. But no, don't do that. The thing is, too, a lot of times when we set the clear expectations, have the correction conversation, the person does rise to the challenge. It gives them the opportunity to be more successful. They know that they're making excuses and letting life things impact their work, etc., and looking for accommodations. Now, some people, expect the accommodation; they're entitled. But anyway, don't let that excuse stop you from having the correction conversations and setting that bar for people to hit within your organization. Sometimes people say, I don't know how to start. Well, yeah, there are some really simple ways to start correction conversations. And I always say a good place to start is reiterating that you're on their side in some way, because you as leader, it's a win-win. If there's a gap in their performance, if you have expectations that are here, but their performance, their behaviors, personality, whatever it is, there's a gap between how you need them to behave or tasks that you need them to do and how they're doing them and what they're doing. You really want to minimize that gap. And if you have the conversation and they rise to the challenge, that's a win-win because you've invested in them already. You want them to be successful in your organization. You're going to be better. They're going to be better. It's all good. So really come to the table with that mindset of, I'm on your side. They might see you as adversarial or you're trying to punish them, et cetera. But, and you can't control how they come to the conversation, but you can control how you come to the conversation, which is ultimately, I'm looking for that win-win. I'm on your side. So some simple phrases are, I'm here to talk about your success and making some investments in your success here. So there's some ways to come with a really positive perspective on beginning a correction conversation. Nothing ever changes. If this is what you're telling yourself, you're not staying consistent with the consequences that you're holding out. For years, when I speak, I've shared, my boys are now grown, but I share this story about how I got my boys to, every time we went to the fast food play places, it was time to leave, I could say, boys, time to go. And they would run to my table, stand next to me and say, thank you for bringing me, mommy. And the jaws would drop of all the other parents. Like, how did you make that happen? Well, I was very diligent about setting clear expectations before we went in. And that was, they needed to eat their food before they played. They needed to play nice the whole time we were there. And that when I said it was time to go, no temper tantrums, they needed to come to the table and say, thank you for bringing me, mommy. And so, and there were consequences. And the 3 keys to making that jaw-dropping experience happen was, 1, setting those clear expectations, being very consistent with that. I wish I was as consistent with everything with them, but I wasn't. But I did have a goal of never having to retrieve a child from one of those play places, and I made it. I never wanted to crawl through the tubes. Anyway, like I said, they're in their 20s now. I made it. So I was very, very consistent with this, but covered the expectations, actually had them share them with me before we went in. I shared the consequence. We won't be able to come back for a really, really long time. Now in the workplace, you're going to be more specific with the consequence. And the third thing is really key. I had to be a mom they knew would follow through. And so if you feel like you set clear expectations and no one follows through, nothing changes, there's something going on with your follow through as a leader. I hate to say that. I'm sorry. You might take offense, but I will tell you the good news then is that you're in control of making the circumstance better. And there's specific strategies that you can use to make sure that people take you seriously when you set expectations and that you're building a culture of accountability. That is what you want. The next example or excuse that I hear a lot is they might quit. To this one, I'm always like, that would actually be awesome. No, we don't want our team members to quit, but there are certain circumstances where I'm like, yes, that would be a celebration, where they have just not been productive. They're using all kinds of stay stuck strategies versus minimizing that gap between the expectations and their behavior and performance. But anyway, sometimes that is the best thing that can happen. If you have given them every opportunity to make the right choices, to perform at a higher level, and they're not making the right choices, again, they're using those stay stuck strategies, then them quitting is great, especially get it in writing. It just avoids all the potentialities of someone, you needing to terminate someone and have the documentation and all of that. So sometimes that's great if that happens. I don't have time. This happens a lot, and you do. Uh, if this is your excuse for having a correction conversation, I want you to quickly do the math. And Marat is saying, I've avoided having uncomfortable conversations with kids by not having any. That is a really good strategy. That is great. Yes, you will certainly not have to have those conversations then. But anyway, the I don't have time one. So generally when I'm working with a client, we meet every week at the same time and date, a day of each week when I first start coaching with them. And so I'll meet with them and then they'll we'll strategize about a challenge they're having with an employee. And then the next week, yeah, the excuses, I didn't have time, this happened, that happened, I had all these meetings, I had a day off, da 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 da. Then the following week, I still didn't have time. The next week, it's usually like, oh, now it feels weird, I didn't talk about it. And I know some of you are watching this and laughing because I just described exactly what you do. So I would encourage you to think about, if there's an employee that you're avoiding a correction conversation with, think about the time that you're spending dealing with the stuff, the friction, the lost productivity, the customer service challenges, whatever they're creating with this gap that they have in their performance or behavior. How much time are you spending on that? How much could you alleviate if you had the conversation, rip the band-aid off, have the conversation, set the clear expectations, see if they're going to rise to the occasion or not. You now have information for the next steps. But I encourage you to look at that, and that will help give you the motivation to move through the discomfort of having the conversation. Because once you do the math and figure out how much time you're spending on an employee who's not performing, usually you're going to want to jump in and do it. All right. This happens so often, mostly in like smaller businesses that are just starting to or have just begun really adding team members. I can't do that because they're my aunt, neighbor, friends, neighbor's aunt. I've had clients where it's, this is the son of our number one client and all those kinds of things, just all those existing relationships that aren't related to the business itself. So there's an outside relationship that's key, that's important, and you're worrying about holding someone accountable and impacting the outside relationship as you work to have a solid internal relationship. Valid, can be challenging. So what I really encourage you to do, if one, as a business, you're going to want to create a bigger pool than just people or the people who who they know. That like kind of one person removed kind of hiring process. You want a bigger pool. There are techniques you can use to hire well, even if you don't already know them or have proof from someone that you know. But so I encourage you to have a wider pool. But if there are family members, friends of friends, etc., that you're bringing into the business, anticipate this problem. Even if I've had so many people, we are best friends, it's all good. There's going to be challenges. But so have that conversation that we have to separate those relationships. We have our friend/family relationship and we have our business relationship, and I need to treat you the same as I'm treating others. Otherwise, I ignite friction within the business. If you can't have that conversation, I really encourage you to avoid bringing them in, because there will be times when you have to have tough conversations. And if you can't even have that preemptive one before you bring them in, that's already giving you information that there's some challenges in having tough conversations with that particular individual. So for whatever reason, whether it's your issue or their issue or just an issue in the relationship. But so there's some of the common excuses that I hear often and kind of some of the ways to avoid them. Again, I hope that you're kind of laughing as you hear these. And that you're seeing yourself maybe in some of these. And I just encourage you to overcome, realize they're just excuses. They're not valid reasons. There's always a workaround. And, I say the business needs to win. And so I see some people hopping on again. Please say hi. And if you see the replay of this, if you could do the pound replay so that I know, feel free to share this as well. So I'm running short on time. I'm just doing 15 minutes. So next time I'm going to talk about the consequences. So it's going to be more motivation. So the consequences of not having these good correction conversations. What happens? What happens if you accommodate the behaviors? And just as a foreshadow, I'll tell you it's not good. Because those who are building resentment are your rock stars and you and your other leaders, etc. And your customers or patients or whoever you serve, clients, are paying the price often. So anyway, thanks for hopping in. Please shoot me a DM with any of your questions for future broadcasts or in the comments. Either way, I can answer you individually, or maybe I'll do a future broadcast on the topic to answer your question. And you are always welcome to grab a spot on my calendar. I love chatting with people. Let's see how I can help you in your business in building that high performing team. You can grab 30 minutes free by simply going to myimpactacademy.com/call. I would love to have a quick chat with you again and just see how I can help. And please do send me your questions, comments, either in the comments or shoot me a private message. All right. Thanks so much for all the work that you do. Let's help move everyone from people problems to productivity, make those high performing teams, and make what we're working to make happen in the world even better. All right. Take care. Bye.